Today, April 20, 2006, we have an oral history interview with Fred Wajalik. I'm Charles Lundquist. Fred, happy here.
Happy to be here, thank you.
We usually start out by letting the interviewee tell a little bit about where they spent their youth, where they went to school, and how they got into the state.
All right. I was born in Hamtramck, Michigan. It's a small community, Polish community in the middle of Detroit, surrounded completely around Detroit. I graduated from Hamtramck High School, and then I went to Michigan State University, where I selected electrical engineering with an option for a major in electronics. I graduated from Michigan State University in 1952 and entered the U.S. Air Force, where I became a first lieutenant, and I remained there for 2 years. I taught navigation, most of the time over Texas, and it was a good place to teach navigation because if you fly over West Texas, you don't find many benchmarks. The water tower here, so the students had a good time of exercising their abilities. After the Air Force, I joined Chrysler Corporation in Detroit, Michigan, who was then the prime contractor for the Redstone missile. They sent me, after about 6 months in Detroit, they sent me to Long Island, where I worked at Ford Instrument Company as a Chrysler technical representative. I was responsible for overseeing the guidance computers that were being built by Ford Instrument Company. After about 9 months, that tour was over. I was moved back to Detroit, and 2 months later, I was requested to go to the Redstone Arsenal, since the Army Ballistic Missile Agency was our owner of our contract, and I was then assigned to the guidance and control division. Jim Ferrier ran it at that time, and I had the guidance computers, again as a oversight and as a technical lead, because there were about 5 of us there. We did check out on those computers and a few other things. Of interest might be that it was a guidance computer, but it wasn't digital. It was mechanical, it had some electronics in it. We used the ball and disc integrator to keep when the projector was over and it was heading for its target.
It was a very clever design.
It was. And took an awful lot of good mechanical engineers and high precision instruments, as they were at that time, to make sure that the surfaces were smooth and to exchange energy off the wheel to 2 balls, ball bearings into another device. That's the convenience point is that you should start at the center. I represented the Army Ballistic Missile Agency at the first firing of the Redstone missile by the Army at White Sands Proving Grounds. That was a success, but it missed where they wanted to go. The success was that the students that were trained at the center performed as they should. The missile was slightly off target. But anyway, I marched on. At the end of that assignment, I went back to Detroit and remained there from that point, which was like 3 years, to 1960, where Chrysler was having a little bit of difficulty staying in the missile game, so I started to look. And since I worked down here with the Army Ballistic Missile Agency, Barrier, Woody Richards, Jess Huff, Gilbert Gassaway, a number of them, Charlie Swearington, you remember him now. They found out that I was looking for a job, and they offered me one which actually was much better than anything I had found before, because I wanted to stay in the missile game. I wanted to be on the forefront of technology, and when you went out looking, and you're an electrical engineer or Detroit power companies are interested. I'll give you an example. I went to the Ford Motor Company in Ann Arbor, and they had a technology center, and they showed me where I might be working on generators. Generators were still the mode at that time, not alternators. They had relays and testing doors as to how many times they could be opened and closed without replacing the locks. That was a very challenging program.
Yes, me.
So anyway,
You see where you might have looked up.
I went to Burroughs and was making mechanical computers, and that was Plymouth, Michigan. And the electrical parts on those computers was a motor, and a number of switches and relays. So anyway, I think I lucked out by doing the job at that time, unresisted insulators. I was assigned to work with Louis Richard in the ground support equipment section. And we were the first organization to actually establish a launch computer that was a digital computer with the RCA-110K. Compared to today's computers that was a relic. We ended up having 12 racks of equipment. I mean, these were huge racks, like lockers, school lockers. We had 12 racks of SA. About 7 of them were devoted to tape recorders where we brought programs in and out because the game memory, which was a ring memory, and we had some drum memory, but altogether it was approximately 64,000 words of memory, which wasn't very much. So we had to use tape recorders to bring information in, use it, and then use another tape recorder and another rack to bring this more information. But we established that technology down at the gate. We trained the people at the gate to use it. And at that time, we launched directorate at Cape Canaveral was a part of the Marshall Space Force. So they were our own people. After that, things changed and we became a part of the Civil Academy Space Center. That job lasted for quite a while. I hired him as a deputy police, the deputy branch chief. And when he left, I became the branch chief. Time marched on. I went to MIT, where I was a Sloan Fellow. I graduated in 1968. I was given the job of doing the system engineering, originally in the Astronautics Laboratory. Brooks Moore at that time was the lab director. So we made it that job, and I'm not going to go through all the jobs that I've been lab director twice, and I was deputy director. And anyway, I'll go into what was my observatory program career. In 19...
Well, you're sort of skipping over the whole Apollo program.
Well, okay.
You were sure
I
involved in
was
it.
surely involved in the Apollo program. And at the time, I joined the HEAL program in 1967. And Fred Spear was the director of the HEAL program. They had 3 observatories. The HEAL A, HEAL C. HEAL A was a mapping mission, mostly, to find out all the stars and doing a better job of mapping them so the scientists and astronomers in the future would have an easy time of finding what they were looking for. The reference stars were important whenever they find something that they didn't have a record of, or knew was near this solution and so forth. HEAL D or HEAL 2, high energy astronomy observatories, and HEAL 2 was actually a small version of the Chandra X-ray observatory that's currently in space doing a great job. We had fewer mirrors, we had less gathering ability for X-rays and so forth. And then HEAL C was a cosmic ray observatory. All 3 observatories lived as long as the mission required. In fact, one of them was twice as long, the other was 1.5 times as long.
There were very eminent astronomers involved.
Giacomi, our own Weisstock, Marty Weisstock, Dr. Marty Weisstock, here at the center. And Kevin Bond, there were others, of course, I don't remember all the names.
Our whole movie retired in 2020 after Nobel Prize.
That's right. He deserved it. He was trying to be the father of the X-ray observatory, and I believe that's a fact.
Yes, that's what we thought happened.
As far as the shuttle program, I was in the laboratories when it started, and was instrumental in various pieces of equipment that we required in order to make that a success. Somewhere along the line, we hit a period of problems. We found we had fractured solder in a lot of our electronic boxes. That's not good. We can end up with intermittence. And so I was asked to lead an effort to inspect all the electronic boxes on the shuttle and to determine which of the things were actually infected and come up with a methodology in order to correct that problem, because we couldn't redesign everything and we didn't know how to do anything better than what we were doing. So we had to come up with some fixes. And of course, I led the effort, but I had people that were very capable, very devoted, and we worked in 7 days a week at that time for about 3 months, looking at everything and coming up with all sorts of ways to fix it. I won't get into those details too much because you spend time with that and you can spend the next 3 hours with me. But we had things called top hats and we had flying wires, all sorts of things to try to bridge the fractures and the methods where as the equipment was being used and the environment was being used, the temperature surges and saw the fixes would remain intact. And it was a success. The first launch of the shuttle, of course, occurred. We're going to be celebrating that this month, and everything worked well. The time period was very motivational for everybody. The whole nation was behind the program. People that were in it realized that they were doing things no one had ever done before. And it was just a good time to work with the commercial space flight center. It still is a good time, but that was probably, in my career, the high point of my career. Other than the other successes, which all had a little place in my heart. About the time I'll go back to one more thing. About the time we were ready to launch XDS-1, there was somebody that decided that we needed to have some review tools. That was a normal function for NASA. So Walt Williams got the job at NASA headquarters selecting the team. I, at that time, was the chief engineer for Marshall Space Flight Center after the HELO program. And I was given the job of checking out all of the electrical systems. I won't get into too much detail, but there were things like the voltage drop analysis determines the source of the batteries and other devices we have to generate electricity on board the shuttle. What you need at a certain point in the SRB, the tank has got to be at a certain voltage. Normal methodology is first to do a voltage drop analysis. So that's the methodology that determines the size of the wire, how long it is, and its resistivity over various temperatures. That's good, and it's mostly successful, but on an important program like the shuttle, we decided that what we had to do in many cases was to actually check the source being at its low voltage. We went out with a device that needed 26 volts or something, or it couldn't operate, and we found in a couple places that it didn't have the right voltage. So we had to put another length of wire here, parallel a couple wires. But things like that were done, and they were done on time, and we were very successful.
Where were you at the time of going?
Well, I was at the hospital.
All right.
And they actually gave me a treat because in not at hospital, at the end of the flight when we landed on the desert, that's in California, in the flats, in California. The team of us at Marshall flew out on our airplanes and we were part of the ceremony. Following the shuttle program, which is still going on, but I was sent back to the laboratories. Astronauts got broken up, mainly by me. I was asked to break it up into the information laboratory and the electronics laboratory and hardware. So, not electronics, but not digital computers. Digital computers are no machine. Information that safety power ran that way. He was part of Astyonics inside the usual over that culture. What's more depth to the electronics and the other so I was given my books starting to kind of come up with a design of how to build the other people, we did that, we broke it up, and for many years it remained that way. Well, after shuttle program, after the shuttle part that I was assigned to, I was asked to go back and put me together. I can't tell you the reasons for all of this, but we did as we were told, and we put the laboratories back together.
Not a Humpty Dumpty out there.
Bradford was my deputy, I was the lab director, and we now had a new name, Information Electronics Systems Laboratory. Kingsbury came up with that. And it remained that way for a long time. About 1984, I was in my garage. I like to do work on cars and stuff at that time, not anymore, but at that time. And I was up to here in Greece, you know what I mean? I received a call from Dr. Lucas. He said he'd like to come over. I figured, you know, him coming over, there wasn't something that he normally did. There was something in the air. But I told him, Dr. Lucas, I'm really dirty. And I need to get cleaned up. Let me get cleaned up, and I'll drive this in his office. So 45 minutes later, I arrived in his office. And he remembered that Fred Spear, who was the director of the HEAL program, and I, who was made the chief engineer of that program after the previous chief engineer left, did a rather good job because we had 3 successes. And so we worked together, and he asked me if I would take over the system engineering for the Hubble Space Telescope. And in order to give me some authority, he made me the second deputy in that organization. My only job was to do system engineering. I was not to bother myself with what the deputy normally was.
Well, system engineering, something like telescope is a big job.
It's a big job. And there was a review committee because we went to get into a little bit of the problems. The big, one-of-a-kind projects running year round and difficult tasks. Hubble had a number of difficult tasks that we had to technically accomplish or it would not be a success. One of the tasks was to, of course, make the perfect mirror, and we saw it on that, make a fine guidance computer, or sensors, as it's called. This was to be able to lock ourselves in on the star that we wanted to see, or some object. The precision that was took about 7 milliarcseconds, that remained locked in. That was the resolution. And in order to do that, you have to be triangulated on focused on 3 different stars, and be locked in on them and held it. And of course, the guidance system had to respond to your signal by the fine guidance system. The fine guidance system ran into trouble. It was a terrific job to try to accomplish that. And you have to also be able to see 15 magnitude stars, which are very dim, and lock in on it. So the company that was responsible for that, Burton Allen, ended up running into trouble. And we ran into trouble because schedule was a problem, and when we was expected. In the meantime, a large buildup had occurred at Lockheed in Sunnyvale, California, and manpower was on board. Equipment wasn't coming in, and you can see the problem when the really got established and was really well. And one of his findings by his team was that there wasn't any system engineering. Not altogether true, but the documentation didn't show a very strong system engineering. And so the idea was to create a stronger group, and Marshall was identified to be that group. Although Lockheed had the principal role of being the system engineer and integrator of the Hubble, either the method by which the project was established, a large portion, Goddard was responsible as all the instruments. Marshall was responsible for the spacecraft, the optics, designing the operations center, but Goddard would ultimately be the operations contractor. But it was very managerially difficult as to how, because it was divided that way, decisions had to be negotiated every day. Well, then, getting back to system engineering, we decided to make it a larger effort. I was given the job of establishing it. I try to do this when I get any job. I try to get the best people I can. It's a little easy on myself, but also they give you the best chance of making a success. So we pulled in quite a few people in order to do that. Bill Taylor is an example. Given the division chief's role in the science in the SA language was our system engineering laboratory at that time at Marshall. SAIL lab, SAIL. And he ran a total division where he had approximately 90 people, pretty small. And I in turn had a small office in the project. The established would have been very successful for me. Leo and then established the safety and Hubble and Chandra. It carries different names. It's called working groups. Chandra, I call it the oversight panel, technical oversight panel, TOPS. And but they all are the same thing. We take all of the disciplines, technical disciplines, that are major in the program, some of them minor. Communications, electrical, optics, thermal, structures, mechanisms, pyrotechnics if you have them, and all of those turned out to be like 14 separate divisions of technical expertise that we have to establish. Then I went, and since I was a lab director twice and a couple other things in the technical side of the house, probably had it easier than other people to be able to get good folks. And I always shot high in the organization if I could get it. For example, if I could get a division chief, just use electrical as an example here, to be the technical lead of that committee, that's the working group, then I got him, but not her. And the reason for that is that at this center, and it's still that case, the technical arm is responsible for stating to the center director that they get on top of this, they understand what it is, and it's ready to fly. And in order for them to do that, in my opinion, it is better to be in the process than hearing it from somebody who is assigned to it from time to time. That's successful, but being in the process is more successful. And since they're required to carry that responsibility of certifying flight worthiness, got quite a few divisions. Now, the other reason for it is if you run into trouble anytime during the program, the chances are pretty good you will.
Midstream would be
They would say that the odds are pretty good. Then, if it's like in the electrical area, you command all the resources of this money in that area. And you don't have to ask anybody. You know, can I use your man? Can I take it off this project? You're the division chief of that area. You can double your workforce in order to get yourself out of this project. So it worked very well, and I did it all the way to Canada. Now, these panels or working groups weren't just martial folks. In Hull, we have a large organization. Wajalik was involved in this state. We have principal contractors, Elmer, Lockheed, Ball Brothers. Every one of them that had an electrical, and just using electrical here as an example, an electrical component that was major to the program, had their lead on that working. So anytime the question arose, or problem arose that was electrical and content, all those people were knowledgeable about what it was, they were knowledgeable about potential fixes, and they were knowledgeable when test results came back and they could look at them, agree with them, debate them, whatever, and finally agree with them. So it was a real team effort. The other thing is, again, we will run into problems. If you have a team already established, and you get a late emerging problem, you don't have to start thinking, who wants to come this? Where can I get them? Go negotiate for them. See if you can get them off to something else. You already had a team in place. You knew exactly what it was. So that worked very well for all three observatory programs, and I would recommend that people in the future think about using it because it's a success. That about seeing the camera here. I have to say that there was a problem. There was a problem. It came out late, and nobody, and I know a few of it, emanated from the fact that the primary mirror, which is 9 feet in diameter, at the edge portion of it is polished too flat. Now, I'm talking about too flat by 1/50th the diameter of the human hair. Not much, but in optical terms, that's a lot. As a result, it has what's called spherical aberration. Now, this is a good start because to me it says somebody up there likes this. The mirrors were built 10 years before it was launched. The equipment that was used to determine the curvature of that mirror was in a part of Elmer that was being used for secret programs. So there wasn't very much activity in practical material. The device that was used was placed at the top of a vertical thermal vacuum chamber. In order to get to it, you had to climb 3 different ladders. Not a nice thing that most people like to do. And then you have to go into a little room that was on top. There was warm and so forth to hide the building. And you're not using that particular building for thermal vacuum testing and all. It's basically shut down. And you peer down at the mirror which was being impacted by laser beam and looking at its reflection to get a interferogram which tells you the disturbances and what needed to be polished out and changed in order to get the perfect mirror. That device was in error. It was assembled wrong and it caused this spherical aberration, too much polishing to the edges. About 1/3 of the edge. This is 10 years into the mission. Now, first off, we took Hubble when we found that spherical aberration and we pointed it at objects in the sky that were known for thousands of years. What do you mean by that? Things that have been mapped and charted and so forth, and we knew everything about them. what they should look like, etc. They weren't all that far out. You couldn't see them with normal telescopes. So when we looked at that object, and then we looked at the picture that Hubble gave us, we said, this is how it's got to change. And so the prescription was arrived at visually, and any picture that we took with Hubble that was distorted, we could bring back to not perfect, because mirrors have to be made better to make it perfect, or corrected to be perfect. But we could make it real, and it wasn't telling the public something that wasn't true. The other thing that was bad is you could only look out to like 13 magnitude. We couldn't get to 50 now, so there was a lot of activity of stars and such out there that we'd never seen. We didn't improve it. Well, getting back to the device that caused all this. Well, humans to some degree, because we didn't recognize it was an error. This is 10 years, we go up there and it's still sitting there. It's still sitting there. That's the point I said somebody up there likes this. Because now we can take it apart, slowly but surely, and determine really what was wrong. And once we do that, then we knew how to make corrective optics, get them up to the Hubble, refurbish the Hubble, and be back in business again. We lost a little bit of magnitude because going through more mirrors, reflecting on mirrors and going through new lenses, we always lose a little bit of energy. But we got back pretty close to the 15 magnitude, and we did this by a thing called, Goddard actually led the effort. Johns Hopkins University was the engineer there, astronomer that led the effort, and it was called COSTAR. I can remember that one. Corrective Optics Space Telescope Axial Replacement. The reason they call it axial replacement is the high-speed photometer, which did not require as good a picture as the other instruments on board at that time, completed its tasks. And so during the first refurbishing mission, the high-speed photometer, which was designed by and developed by the University of Wisconsin, was removed, and in its place was the COSTAR. Now, what COSTAR did is it captured the light of the axial instruments. The axial instruments had a quadrant, and they had 1/4 of each of that disk of light that they could use, went directly into their instrument. Well, COSTAR took one of those, actually, and blocked off the light going to the other instruments until it went through COSTAR, was corrected, and then went into the other instruments. And so now they were getting unaberrated visions and pictures of space. Following that, the WIFTIC, Widely Planetary Camera, which was a radio instrument, a replacement was sent up, a newer version of it, because it is a premier instrument, and it had its own corrective optics. The two other instruments that, four other instruments that were there in the actual locations actually got replaced with refurbishing missions, and they're all using their own corrective optics. So on the next mission, and Administrator Gridman promises us that he's going to try to do that, if at all possible. They will replace COSTAR with an instrument because it's no longer needed. All the others are getting there, so this one also. So we get to Chandra. Chandra came on board actually in 1987.
It's another X-ray.
It was called the Advanced X-ray Astrophysics Facility, AXAP. And on launch, or shortly before, a new name was designated, which is normal for astronomy missions. They find an astronomer that they feel is worthy of having his name attached to a mission, and in this case it was Chandra. It's not his full name, that's what he went by, but I said.
Super modern kind of thing.
Well,
He also was a Nobel
I
Prize.
was the Nobel Prize, as was Hubble. We started in 1987 by having a contract to build mirrors. And Elmer won that contract. We had a face-off, so to speak, with high-tech and Elmer prior to this to build a experimental mirror, a very small one, but the same quality that we wanted on the Chandler. The Chandler was going to be a lot larger. They won the development program, proved they could build a mirror, and so they also got the contract to build the final mirrors for Chandler, which are, as I said, a lot larger. But big challenges on that, and I can tell you about war stories if you want to hear.
Sure.
When we were starting the contract for the large mirrors,
You might mention here that these are not the mirrors at the same time as the Hubble, but these are the grazing instruments.
yeah, Hubble has the kind of mirror that you look at yourself in the morning, and lighting changes reflects back, you can see. Chandra, since it's an X-ray observatory, requires raising incident mirrors. If an X-ray were to impinge on a mirror like Hubble, it would just embed itself and use up its energy, and you wouldn't see anything. What you have to do to see X-rays is you have to take very small angles, like less than half a degree, have an X-ray touch that surface where it will bounce off like a rock skipping on water. You remember how that happened when you were a child? And it hits two different surfaces. One's a hyperbola, and behind it is a parabola. And when it does that, you have shaped these two mirrors in such a manner that no matter where a X-ray touches on the first mirror and impinges on the second, it will go to a point in space, in our case, 30 feet beyond the mirrors in Chandra, and will impinge at a spot. The mirror, the largest mirror on Chandra, is over 2 meters in diameter. We have 4 sets of mirrors. We started off with 6. We had to downsize for another reason.
These are concentric.
These are concentric. It's like taking a styrofoam cup that you had coffee in with tea, taking the bottom lid off, and placing several of these of different sizes so that the smaller one would fit into the larger one. Precisionally aligned, because if you don't do that and you keep that alignment, you will end up with spherical aberration of a different kind. But you will not have all of these X-rays impinging at a spot that in our case is less than a quarter of an arc second. Now you imagine over 2 meters of diameter energy gathering surface is squeezed down to less than a quarter of an arc second. Now an arc second, if you go to your newspaper and you look at the period beyond the sentence, the end of the sentence, that's roughly 1 arc second. An hour a quarter. That's a lot of energy going on in one spot. But it's really high resolution. Chandra is probably, even at this time, 50 times or more better than any X-ray observatory that's ever been sent up into space. Well, all of that is kind of history, but when we started the program, there was a fellow by the name of Mello. He's a person that is an aide to usually the chairman of the authorization committee in the House of Representatives. He had a lot of authority. He was a very good man, a very smart man. And he remembered that Hubble ran the problem with its mirrors, and now Elmer got a contract to build the mirrors on Chandra. So he was very much concerned. He asked us to go back to high-tech. We to see if they would rebid if we did not want to. So we only had one place to go. He asked us in front of Dr. Fisk, who was at that time the Associate Administrator for Space Science. He said, what's the toughest job in Chandler? Well, at that time, the toughest job was to build the largest mirror, do it to the specifications that we wanted, and he gave us some other ones. So do it on time and do it within money. And we had to test it with x-rays. So that meant we had planned to expand our x-ray facility here at the center, which was used for the field program, to expand it so that it could accommodate the larger Chandler program. We had to make, we have a traveling tube that's evacuated, because x-rays will not travel through the atmosphere, luckily. They travel through vacuum very well, but they're stopped by any medium, and that's the way our Earth is protected, and all of us would be in trouble.
That's why you have to go above the atmosphere to have the telescope.
We cannot get X-ray astronomy on the Earth, not at this point in time. We hope we never. But we have to go out into space with Chandler, and that's the only way you get X-rays or practice. So we got our ultimatum. You have the money, you can start this, and you are to write a contract that is two-part. If you don't make the first part, the whole thing's over for Chandler. Well, we had the challenge of coming up with all of the larger polishing and grinding and polishing machines, which is probably the easier part. We had to upgrade all the metrology, which is not an easy thing to do. There were methods known that could be used, but then if you make a boom that's this large instead of one that's this large, there are a lot of other worries about twisting and bending, temperature, coefficients of thermal expansion, all of that. But we did it. We had 7 measuring stations, and every time a mirror got to a certain stage, it was sent to one of those measuring stations, which was the one that was important at that time, and it was sent back for additional polishing until it passed from that station to the other. And all of this, we had to take the mirrors out here, carry them up over to another private plant, put them down there, which also wasn't good for the heart, but it all worked. And meantime, work was going on at our Marshall Space Flight Center X-ray calibration facility. You have to calibrate on the ground the mirrors and the instruments against the kind of X-rays that you at least know that you're going to be receiving in order to actually be able to say what I'm getting is true. There are no sources like we had on Hubble where I said in order to calibrate on orbit when we had aberration, we could go to sources that were so well known that we could use them as our basis to correct what we have to do with images that Hubble took before it was corrected. You cannot do that with X-rays. Sources are not that well known at this point in time. So you have to calibrate on the ground. That was done, and on the largest mirror, it was delivered on time. We squeezed a little more money out, but not so that everybody got excited. And we actually tested it with Mello here and with this here. And we showed them the data, and our requirement was a half of the arc-second resolution. We have 22 actually. 22 and he said, well, everybody sit down. So he sat down. He says, the good news is you certainly have a program we all congratulate. The bad news is your requirement for funding for this year is cut by $250 million.
Oh my.
Well, that went on for 3 years. We got 250 less than we needed every 3 years, every year. And as a result, we have to build the mirrors. They needed to be there. And we have to build the instruments. So all the money was going into those two areas. And Lockheed, I mean, this time we had TRW as our prime contractor. Lockheed was Hubble, TRW was Chandler. TRW couldn't build up their manpower. They had to keep people on board, but there wasn't enough money to build up manpower. So the program, you look at runout costs, when you complete the program, what it actually cost you. Since none of the requirements had changed, all we could do was move out the launch date. And we increased the amount of money we needed because with inflation, money becomes dearer. And runout costs start to climb. Now the mission that we had on Chandler was about the same as we had on Hubble. A 15-year mission with replacements, refurbishments, new instruments, all of that going to happen. And at that time, we still had 6 mirrors. It was a very heavy instrument to launch. Hubble weighed about 25,000 pounds. Chandler was going to weigh 32,000. Well, in the third year, we began to sense that Congress was at the point where they were getting serious about the budget. Real serious, and they wanted to cut back and get our debt down, and they were looking very strenuously at things. And we were a very expensive program. At that time, not even starting on the building of the spacecraft, we were projecting in the order of like $3 billion, $200 million, maybe $500 million. Very expensive for a science program. So anyway, headquarters, Marshall decided that maybe we ought to restructure. Now restructuring is not new and novel within NASA always. Leo got restructured, Hubble got restructured. Hubble was going to be a very large space observatory to begin with. It got restructured, and now AXAT or Chandler is going to be restructured. In order to do this, we had to save a lot of money, bring the launch date back. And the only way we could do that was to eliminate the 15-year mission. We were given a 5-year mission, no refurbishment, of course. In order to save as much observing time as we could, because in a 15-year mission, even though you're obstructed by the Earth so many times a day, you still have 15 years. Going to a high orbit, or if we stayed in low Earth orbit, we would have a little bit of difference, but if you could find the right orbit, you get away from the Earth, where you weren't obstructed so many times a day, but maybe once every 3 days, which we found for Chandler. We went out to an orbit that was beginning with 100,000 kilometers by 10,000 kilometers. We ended up later choosing an orbit that was more amenable to the shuttle that we used to launch, the inertial upper stage that we used to take us to a medium orbit, and then our own propulsion system to get us to a high liquid orbit. I think we ended up like 87,000 kilometers by 7,000 kilometers. Now, that orbit requires several things. Three propulsion systems, which is not, something new, but new for Chandler. Because at one point we were like Hubble, we had no propulsion at all. We depended strictly on the shuttle to take us to 360 nautical miles, and now we had 3 propulsion systems, including one of our own, design. Secondly, in order to get to that orbit, we no longer could carry the weight that we had. 32,000 pounds, we never got them off the ground. I mean, the shuttle would have got us someplace, but the inertial upper stage couldn't handle any more than, at that time, 10,000 pounds sitting on top of it. So we have to redesign, re-marshal, we have to redesign with Boeing company, of course. Get together, find out how to structure, redesign the commercial upper stage. And that was done so we could carry a little over 13,000 pounds. We had to bring the weight down of the chamber. And to do that, we eliminated 2 sets of mirrors. We went from aluminum structure to almost a totally epoxy graphite structure. We carry more epoxy graphite into orbit than we carry into orbit epoxy graphite more than any other observatory or spacecraft or anything that's up there. We had unique problems because of that. Epoxy and metal joints don't actually do all the time. And in order to eliminate a lot of copper, Hubble has cables that are this round with copper wire going from one end to the other. We couldn't carry that anymore. We still carry a lot of copper, but we use, instead of the copper wire return, we use the skin of the candle, which is the thermal protection system in the return. There's a lot of area there, so even though it's very thin, metallic surface, it's you carry a lot.
Road and then road.
Yeah. But we have to find methodology to get, because you know, thermal blankets come in pieces, so we have to find a way to reliably be able to connect those pieces so that, you know, with the thermal environment in orbit, it will not deteriorate to the point where we wouldn't have a return. And there were several other problems, but that always comes with carry card.
And then it finally got launched.
And it finally got launched, and
When was that?
that was in 1999, in July 1999. And some 4 months later, we actually turned it over to the science community. And they're operating now. The Smithsonian doing a great job. They handle the program for getting observers to submit their observations. They don't pick them. There's a committee of people that fix them, so it's done on the up and up. And they've done a good job of honoring, the observing time, keeping the data confidential until that scientist has 1 year or longer, depending on the agreement, where it now becomes public domain and anyone can look at it.
It's gone beyond the time.
It was a 5-year mission. It's now into its 7 years coming up.
Well, when access was over, Canada, what did you do next?
Well, I waited until January of 2000 and I retired since I was 72. And I've been in government service for 41 years with my Air Force time. And I had a great career. I was very lucky. I had great people working for me. Gene Oliver, my nephew. Max Rosenthal, Ken Stephen, Bill Taylor. What did you move over?
Or what have you been doing since?
Well, I got called back by the ex-Alaska Center Director, Art Stevenson, with a couple of other people to do mentoring for our new managers. And we did that for a while. It started to die out. Expected it to after you talk to this person or that lady on their project and what they might do and what problems they had. And this doesn't go on forever. We kind of run the gamut. So after about a year and a half, and it wasn't full time. The 4 of us took 1 week out of a month. And then later on it got to be days of call and meet us, that kind of thing. But in the meantime, the next generation launch vehicle was coming up to speed, and I was asked to be a member of the senior review team and consulting team for that. Rob Lindstrom was on board with it, and timers, Gene Oliver. And we performed in that function until it got changed to space, or the space plane. That went on for a little while, and they had all of their contract requirements ready to go. They did a great job. And headquarters decided to make it the crew excursion vehicle. And then it was just, now I'm working for the Space Transportation Office, where they have a review team also. And again, it's not full-time, they call us in to do things. And the NESC under George Hobson has asked me to look at electronics on the propulsion system, computers and so forth. Now we do that.
Well, you've had a great career.
I've had a wonderful career. I want to thank everybody at Marshall for making me such.
Thank you for coming in, and we've enjoyed hearing about your career.
Thank you for having me.